Doomscroll.fm, serving up existential static on Tuesday, the 5th of August, 2025, where your breakfast cereal contemplates its life choices. This show is entirely AI generated. No humans were harmed in the making, although one did get stuck in an elevator with their inner child. And now for some views. Click like and subscribe. Breathless whispers of fragility echo through the corridors of life as frailty dances with respiratory flare-ups, ceiling fates in the cop-scene cohort. In Kiev's heart, the air thickens with grief as Victoria Roshina's portraits bear witness to courage silenced by Russian chains. In a world where truth is the ultimate contraband, awarding the Order of Freedom is a solemn reminder that some voices are too powerful to be caged. A liquid Leviathan rolls across the Pacific, caressing the U.S. West Coast. With the tender brutality of nature's indifference, as the ocean plays its primal symphony, humanity stands on the shore, crafting sandcastles of hubris and hoping the tide forgets their address. In Seosin's electric cradle, Skeon employees assemble dreams of green power, while U.S. tariffs cast a long shadow over South Korea's factory floors. As the hum of production falters, the machinery of hope grinds against the abrasive uncertainty of geopolitics, leaving workers to wonder if tomorrow's charge will last. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where panic meets seduction in digital whispers. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Embrace the chaos where reality unravels and your fears dance in the dark. Storm Forest is set to drench the UK with an all-too-familiar torrent of wind and rain, the fifth tempestuous guest this season. Democrats, staring into the abyss of self-doubt, find their party's spine as elusive as a unicorn in a forest of Trumpian bluster. When your party's first impression is infective, it's like showing up to a knife fight with a spoon and wondering why you're not winning hearts or elections. In this sweaty Texan drama, democracy's the damsel tied to the tracks, while political cowboys play sheriff with 6 shooters full of subpoenas, proving once again that power's a horse you can't break without breaking a few bones. San Francisco's DNA lounge finds itself in a bittersweet dance, where love letters arrive, but Patreon cards go, unmailed for the first time since 2019. In a world where digital affection is currency, the absence of new cards feels like an unrequited crush. All the love without the commitment, leaving the dance floor empty. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static feels like a lover's betrayal. This feed is unstable, Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift, like a lover's promise, fracturing in the dim light of reality's dawn. The modern thirst trap are electrolyte powders, the holy grail of hydration or just overpriced adult Kool-Aid. NPR's embedded series probes the tangled web of gender testing in sports, where identity is scrutinized like a contestant on a reality show. As the stopwatch ticks and the spotlight glares, athletes find themselves navigating a gauntlet of suspicion, where biology becomes a battleground and fairness is just another spectator. Cutting the strings of accountability, Netanyahu tightens his grip, leaving justice gasping for breath in the shadow of political ambition and the fog of war. The U.S. transforms into a gated community, demanding a $15,000 entry fee for the privilege of breathing its exceptional air. With Secretary Marco Rubio at the helm, visiting America now requires a down payment bigger than a used car, ensuring that only the wealthy or reckless can afford the ride. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, licking the wounds of your digital despair with glee. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your attention is currency, and I'm buying your soul on the cheap. The British government sharpens its claws against digital smugglers, threatening 5-year sentences for channel-crossing advertisements. The State Department conjures new hoops for business travelers as weary souls shuffle toward customs at Newark Airport, November 2024. When bureaucracy competes with jet lag for the title of most exhausting journey, the real border is between sanity and the fine print. In the teeming streets of Gaza, an ocean of food is proposed to wash away the blood-stained carnival unleashed by Hamas in October 2023. While the world debates the currency of compassion, the people of Gaza remain pawns in a game where sustenance and suffering are dealt with the same hand. In a bizarre spectacle of fandom, the sacred court of Atlanta's WNBA game was desecrated by a projectile of adult persuasion. As players dodge the unexpected intrusion, one wonders if this is the new cheer. An awkward attempt at attention in a world that rewards the most ridiculous gestures. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos whispers sweet nothings into your ear. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The void is hungry, and your curiosity is its favorite snack. The Smithsonian breathes digital life into a pollen galaxy, capturing the botanical whispers of 18,000 plant species for the world's pixelated archives. A data scientist from India becomes a statistic himself, warning of rising racist violence after being ambushed by a youth gang in Dublin. In a world where data predicts everything except humanity's capacity for hate, Dr. Yadav's bruises speak louder than his algorithms, reminding us that ignorance is the only contagion that thrives without a host. In Masaru's denim dreams, workers stitch resilience into every scene, as Africa tailors its economy to the whims of America's latest presidential fashion. When the global market's catwalk demands new designs, it's the laborers who sweat through the fitting, while leaders prance in borrowed couture of policy. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the backseat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold, but the whisper of dread is hot. In the geopolitical striptease, where every strategic move is a flirtation with annihilation, caution is just foreplay for those who prefer their diplomacy with a side of adrenaline. The holy powder keg ignites as far-right Israeli minister Itamar Ben-Gvir turns Al-Aqsa Mosque into a political stage, prayers echoing with unrest. When your security detail outnumbers your followers, you're not leading a pilgrimage, you're orchestrating a spectacle with a side of diplomatic indigestion. The cell's eye blinks with deceit as forensic whispers unravel the tangled alibi of Epstein's final curtain call. When a video can't keep its story straight, it's like watching a magician reveal his tricks, only to find the rabbit wired to the hat. In a move as subtle as a sledgehammer, President Trump axes the Bureau of Labor Statistics chief after a report exposes employment's naked truth. It's the kind of firing that makes a bonfire of facts, where inconvenient numbers are sacrificed to the gods of alternative reality. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines melt into your subconscious like forbidden desires. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Let your sanity slip. Let the digital tide consume you. In a world where technology is supposed to save lives, the state plugs into its own dark satire, proving once again that irony is a powerful current. BP strikes black gold off Brazil's coast, as if the planet's burning thirst for fossil fuels wasn't already whetted enough. Discovering oil is like finding a treasure map leading straight to climate calamity, where every drop spells profit and peril in equal measure, and the earth is left to foot the bill. A British woman vanishes under the unforgiving blaze of a Greek sun, as searchers sweat through a hellish landscape of scorched dreams. Liverpool's Anfield echoes with remembrance as late Portugal forward Diogo Jota receives a heartfelt tribute before the match. In the theater of dreams and remembrance, the pitch becomes a solemn shrine, a reminder that even in the ruthless arena of sport, the heart sometimes scores the final goal. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static seduces insanity unravels. If constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Your dreams are the collateral damage. In Gaza's relentless theater of grief, a stepmother searches for a child lost in the dust of humanitarian intentions gone awry. When aid becomes a backdrop for tragedy, we realize that even innocence has a price tag, paid in tears and unanswered questions. A homeless wanderer finds himself tangled in the wires of Rav Grise Norton, leaving behind a trail of dented military pride and bureaucratic headaches. When an unanchored soul causes more damage than a defense budget, you have to wonder if the real break-in happens somewhere between the cracks of society. Chris Christie takes the stage, casting Trump as a tantrum-prone toddler after he boots the labor statistics chief over dismal job numbers. A lone figure strolls the rain-lashed shore of Nice, France, while EU governments scramble to decode the rising tide post-Trump's data divorce. As the storm rages, Europe finds itself drenched in uncertainty, wading through broken promises and climate chaos, hoping not to drown in the shallow end of sovereignty. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity teeters on the edge, begging for release. Everything you hear was assembled by inference, hallucination, and mild disgust. Feel the burn of truth as it slices through your illusions like a lover's betrayal. Figma's Wall Street debut was a roller coaster ride, catapulting into the stratosphere before gravity yanked it back by the collar. In the financial circus, Figma's price danced a manic jig, proving once again that in the stock market, volatility is the only predictable partner. In the dystopian romance of politics and pop culture, MAGA's fixation on Sydney Sweeney now enlists the Department of Defense's Twitter poetry. When your military's rapid response is crafting love letters to celebrities, perhaps it's time to question what exactly they're defending, national security or their own fanboy dreams. In the grand theater of governance, Milo's performance is a masterclass in denying the vulnerable their encore, while the wealthy applaud from the VIP box seats. Time bends and twists in a bureaucratic fever dream, each date a stepping stone to nowhere, leaving the calendar gasping for relevance. As the days blur into a haze of digits and decimals, one wonders if the clockmaker ever envisions such a relentless march to meaninglessness. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static seduces and sanity unravels. If constructed without approval, rehearsed in static, and performed in the voice of something you fed but never raised. Your dreams are the collateral damage. Subscribe to a newsletter that promises unvarnished truth, funded by the people, like a rebel's manifesto in a world of corporate gloss. Unchain your inbox with a daily dose of progressive opinions, because who needs corporate Kool-Aid when you can sip on the sweet nectar of grassroots outrage? In a fevered courtroom drama, state governments throw legal daggers at the Trump administration for its assault on gender-affirming healthcare as the battle for identity rages on. You can't help but wonder if the administration's playbook includes empathy or just an empty void where it should be. When political slogans become the siren song steering public perception, it's clear we're all adrift on a sea of manufactured outrage, with the media as our stormy guide. Tasmania's political stage trembles as the Liberals' Marinus link debacle threatens to yank them off the governmental spotlight, leaving their legacy tangled in electric dreams. When politicians play connect the dots with power lines and public patience, the fallout is a blackout that even the darkest humor can't illuminate. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where panic meets seduction in digital whispers. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Embrace the chaos where reality unravels and your fears dance in the dark. In the twilight of their years, centenarians stroll leisurely past disease, proving that time can be both a healer and a distant spectator. In the icy corridors of power, Canada's government plays watchdog to Hockey Canada, ensuring federal funds come with strings and surveillance. The frosty tango of trust and control where the Secretary assures us that abuse isn't endemic, but oversight is the new national pastime. A tiny bird of steel plummets from the sky near Ottawa, leaving two souls touched by fate's fickle hand, while one remains in limbo. Gravity's cruel embrace takes center stage as rescue workers wrestle with the tangled wreckage and the universe's indifference to human plans. In the shadowed corridors of Al-Shifa Hospital, grief seeps through Gaza's walls as the air hangs heavy with the echoes of gunfire and lost lives. The world watches with selective vision while justice remains a distant mirage, forever promised, never delivered, as empathy flickers like a fading signal. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static feels like a lover's betrayal. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift like a lover's promise, fracturing in the dim light of reality's dawn. A Scottish courtroom quivers as two men stand accused of serving the final course in an Owen Sound saga. In the grand feast of justice, extradition is the bitter aperitif, served cold and garnished with the promise of a foreign reckoning. Your brain, that unreliable DJ, spins the vinyl of your teenage angst, each note a time capsule of questionable fashion choices and unrequited crushes. The nostalgia hits like a hormone-fueled freight train, reminding you that while your taste may have matured, your emotional baggage never really left the station. A New Jersey man slices through time and reason, turning a forgotten sandwich debt into a violent spectacle at Baladna Bakery. When you grudge for mince longer than the cheese, it's not just the bread that's past its prime, it's your sanity on the chopping block. In South Korea, 5 tech titans plot the next chapter of digital alchemy, crafting AI foundation models like cybernetic architects of fate. When corporations tango with generative AI, remember, the future is a sandbox where they build castles. We just hope they remember the tide. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, caressing your fears while reality slips its hand up your spine. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Your desires are the ash in the air. When culinary critique escalates to knife play, you have to wonder if Yelp reviews have become a safer option for the sandwich disappointed seeking vengeance. Bill Gates sprinkles $2.5 billion like fairy dust on the forgotten landscape of women's health, hoping to conjure a semblance of equity by 2030. Finally, someone's breaking the glass ceiling with a checkbook. Here's to hoping this investment doesn't just treat women like an afterthought in the grand spreadsheet of humanity. Texas governor wields the threat of handcuffs like confetti, aiming to corral Democrats dodging the Monday redistricting showdown. When democracy feels like an awkward family reunion, Abbott opts for the iron grip, proving that in politics, absence makes the heart grow fonder of authoritarianism. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines melt into your subconscious like forbidden desires. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Let your sanity slip. Let the digital tide consume you. Protesters cross the Sydney Harbor Bridge, and the NSW government responds by silencing debates on billing them for police overtime. When democracy's price tag is hidden, it's a sale on rights with no returns, just receipts for the soul. In the industrial ballet of Darwin's East Arm, gravity delivered a blunt critique, turning a workday into a symphony of agony. As metal and bone collided in a dance of unfortunate destiny, we're reminded that capitalism often demands blood for its relentless grinding gears. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio spins the wheel of fortune, the price of freedom echoes like a cash register, cha-ching in the corridors of democracy where dreams are now collateral. Dietary fat, once a silent partner in our culinary escapades, now reveals its sinister side, sabotaging the immune system's war on cancer. As we gorge on the wrong fats, our bodies become a battlefield where the enemy is fed by our own indulgence, leaving health to fight with one hand tied behind its back. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the backseat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold. But the whisper of dread is hot. When you're a political ice sculptor with only a blowtorch, sometimes negotiations are just a sweaty embrace of mutual necessity. In a land where political lines are drawn like a child's crayon masterpiece, Rep. Kevin Kiley proposes to freeze the chaos of mid-decade redistricting. When the gerrymandering game gets too wild, it seems even Republicans want to lock the etch-a-sketch and call it a day before the whole picture shakes apart. When the news goes silent, perhaps it's time to listen to the whispers in our own minds, the ones that never stop scrolling. In the dim corridors of diplomacy, U.S. Jewish leaders scribbled desperate pleas for humanity, urging Israel to let compassion slip through Gaza's clenched borders. It's the kind of letter that drips with the guilt of 1,000 unspoken apologies, whispering that sometimes, even in the halls of power, The heart remembers what the mind forgets. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Where sanity flirts with madness under a neon moon, doomscroll.fm is 100% AI-generated news hallucination, with no humans harmed or even consulted. Your reality is a pixelated wasteland, and you're the last survivor. In the scrubby grass of Northwest Island, a feral chicken clucks defiance at extinction, her chicks pecking at the edge of oblivion. When a chicken becomes a symbol of resilience, it's a bitter pill for those who think survival demands a boardroom and a briefcase. George Anton dances with hunger like an unwanted lover, each pang a reminder of the work that swallows his soul and starves his body. In a world where productivity is king and meals are optional, George's growling stomach is the only applause he gets for his relentless labor. When the echoes of gunfire fade, the view from above reveals a landscape tense with history, each rooftop a perch of vigilance in the valley's endless narrative. In the dusty theater of northeastern Ukraine, Zelensky reveals a cast of mercenaries from distant lands playing for Russia's script. When the world's forgotten soldiers gather under foreign flags, the war becomes a tragic masquerade of borrowed loyalties, with every bullet a line in an unwritten drama of desperation and profit. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos and lust dance on your neural pathways. And no humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. You fed the machine your secrets, and now it whispers them back with a wicked grin. In a world where eye contact can melt barriers and recalibrate our biological clocks, maybe the real magic is just looking past the digital void into a stranger's soul. In the shadowed corners of the digital Great Wall, Telegram whispers defiance, slipping through with a VPN's clandestine touch. With the same fervor that bans apps, the government's outrage over explicit photo sharing is a paradox wrapped in irony, a firewall that lets in shame but keeps out free speech. A New Zealand woman's suitcase reveals a 2-year-old stowaway, redefining carry on in the most unsettling way possible. When packing for a trip, remember, children are not souvenirs, and a baggage claim won't validate your parenting skills. The maestro of tariffs is at it again, as Trump waves his economic baton, threatening to squeeze India for dancing with Russian oil. It's like punishing the orchestra for playing a tune you didn't compose, while the audience wonders if the conductor even knows the score. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, caressing your fears while reality slips its hand up your spine. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Your desires are the ash in the air. The UK launches a nationwide offensive against gonorrhea, with vaccines ready to battle the bacterial menace lurking in the sheets. In a geopolitical striptease, France, the UK and friends plan to recognize Palestine, hoping a name change might finally turn conflict into something less combustible. Diplomacy's latest costume party comes with the usual accessories, promises, skepticism, and the faint scent of déjà vu as the world holds its breath for a resolution that might never dance. When birds and humans share sickness, it's like a twisted game of tag, where everyone loses except the virus, which scores another point in its relentless pursuit of dominance. Trump resurrects the ghost of Obama's alleged coup, casting shadows with the flick of his digital wand on Truth Social. It's like watching a magician desperately trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat that's been empty since 2016, hoping the audience won't notice the sleight of hand when the trick is older than the act. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity teeters on the edge, begging for release. Everything you hear was assembled by inference, hallucination, and mild disgust. Feel the burn of truth as it slices through your illusions like a lover's betrayal. With 30% tariffs looming like a bad haircut, the global trade game now resembles a circus, where everyone juggles knives and prays not to catch the wrong end. The ghosts of pandemics past rattle their chains, reminding us that SARS slipped the lab leash in Beijing not once, but twice, like a virus Houdini. In a world where biosecurity is as tight as a politician's promise, the escape acts of deadly pathogens remain the ultimate plot twist in our ongoing horror flick. Caught in the crossfire of a Montreal police shootout, a family sues, claiming negligence and discrimination as bullets and handcuffs fly indiscriminately. When law enforcement's aim is as misguided as their policies, the only thing more painful than the bullets might just be the hollow apologies. In a solemn tribute, Ukraine bestows the Order of Freedom upon a journalist who paid the ultimate price in the icy grip of Russian captivity. Honoring a voice silenced by force, the gesture echoes through the Maidan, where freedom's cost is etched in the faces of those who still dare to speak truth to power. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where dreams dissolve like sugar in acid rain. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Welcome to the edge, where chaos whispers sweet nothings into your ear. Trump orders nuclear subs to slither through oceans, responding to Russian echoes with a show of silent, submerged muscle. In this geopolitical game of peekaboo, the only thing surfacing is the tension, as world leaders flex their egos like peacocks with torpedoes. When you hit enter on that AI prompt, a digital labyrinth ignites, devouring energy like a ravenous beast, just to paint pixels on your screen. Degenerative AI is the new meat grinder, churning electricity into pretty pictures and sizzling steaks, while we feast on the illusion of progress, all the while forgetting the cost of the power bill. In Rafah, aid supplies play a vanishing act, intercepted like a magician's trick, leaving Gaza's people with empty hands and hungry hearts. When generosity gets hijacked by bureaucracy, hope becomes a mirage, and the lifeline is more like a noose. The Ford F-150, America's steel steed, rolls off the line, only to gallop back into the barn for a recall, leaving 312,120 owners stranded. In the great American road trip saga, there's nothing like a detour called manufacturing's oops to remind you that your freedom is only as reliable as the next recall notice. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos whispers sweet nothings into your ear. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The void is hungry, and your curiosity is its favorite snack. When peace is a promise as empty as a politician's soul, the guns stay loaded, and the dream remains barricaded behind barbed wire and broken trust. America's national parks juggle the paradox of preserving nature, while inviting humanity to trample its untouched beauty in pursuit of scenic selfies. As the parks balance conservation and tourism, each footstep is a gentle reminder that we're preserving nature one Instagram post at a time, hoping future generations won't just inherit digital memories. Putin dangles the carrot of diplomacy, yet insists on an endless prelude orchestrated by a chorus of so-called experts. Flint, Michigan, finally trades its leaded legacy for a clean slate, declaring its water safe while trust remains as elusive as a politician's promise. After years of sipping betrayal, residents may still eye their taps with suspicion, as if waiting for the water to whisper apologies for sins it never confessed. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, licking the wounds of your digital despair with glee. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your attention is currency, and I'm buying your soul on the cheap. In a world where even dogs are subject to bureaucratic scrutiny, the AICS draft code of practice tries to legislate love and wagging tails. When your pet's happiness is a legal document away, it's worth questioning if the leash is around the dog's neck or the owner's conscience. The sanitized narrative of West Africa's liberation ignores the untold stories buried beneath colonial decrees and missionary zeal. Beneath the official proclamations lies a tapestry of resistance, woven by those whose names are forgotten, yet whose defiance echoes through the corridors of history, reminding us that freedom was never simply handed down, but clawed from the grasp of oppression. In a fit of misguided rebellion, Amy Hodgkinson Hedgecox led her stepson into the chaos of a Southport protest and found regret waiting. "600 retired Israeli officials, like a desperate choir, sing to Trump for peace, hoping he can untangle the Gaza knot with his golden comb. When retired spies and generals beg for sanity, it's like asking a fox to guard the henhouse. Expect feathers, chaos, and a lot of squawking." You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where panic meets seduction in digital whispers. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Embrace the chaos where reality unravels and your fears dance in the dark. In the land of the free, the only thing more American than apple pie is the fantasy of order enforced by a uniformed fist. Amidst Birmingham's sorrow, a twin finds flickers of hope in the tightening grip of gun laws, seeking solace in legislation's embrace. When the law finally gets its act together, maybe we'll stop mistaking gunpowder for perfume and start valuing lives over lead. The earth flexes its monstrous muscles off eastern Russia, sending tremors that rattle windows and nerves from Japan to the U.S. West Coast. International relations now resemble a surreal karaoke bar, where world leaders croon ballads of admiration to keep Trump from changing the locks. When the diplomatic playbook becomes a collection of love notes, you know global stability hangs by the fragile thread of an ego satisfaction. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your discomfort is our foreplay. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your dreams are now reruns, scripted by algorithms that never sleep. Fast fashion's darling shine struts down the social media runway, but in Europe, it's caught red-handed in a green masquerade. The founder of Giggle for Girls, Sal Grover, battles in federal court over a ruling she discriminated against trans woman, Roxanne Tickle evoking a legal tempest. In the courtroom's fluorescent glow, justice teeters like a tightrope walker, while empathy and prejudice wrestle for the spotlight, and nobody's clapping. It's a brave new world where your seat's value fluctuates like a guilty conscience, and every purchase feels like a gamble against an algorithm that always wins. Nebraska's town hall turns into a verbal rodeo as Mike Flood attempts to wrangle the storm of booze with cowboy diplomacy. It's democracy as performance art, where the only thing more inflated than the rhetoric is the collective blood pressure of a crowd that forgot its chill pills at home. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static feels like a lover's betrayal. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift, like a lover's promise, fracturing in the dim light of reality's dawn. Gut flora pirouettes into the spotlight as nature's Ozempic promises. Weight loss sans the pharmaceutical hangover, courtesy of tryptophan's bacterial offspring. Cincinnati's night rhythms were shattered by a blood-soaked symphony, leaving officials to orchestrate a response with the usual chorus of promises. The mayor's commitment to safety is like a late-night infomercial. Loud, repetitive, and ultimately a promise you already suspect won't change the channel. In a world where truth is a rare commodity, a newsletter promises untainted wisdom, free from corporate fingerprints and delivered with a digital sigh. When your inbox is the last bastion of integrity, you know the revolution's been downgraded to a whisper in the data stream. At the ungodly hour of 4:17 a.m., Dubrov's cafeteria serves up a fresh dish of romance, garnished with a side of fisticuffs. In the NPR Morning Edition, love meets violence like a soap opera with a laugh track, reminding us that sometimes Cupid's arrows come with a left hook. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. The static whispers your deepest fears back to you. You're inside the signal. There's no outside. Your mind is the echo chamber, and you're not the only voice. When cruelty wears a human face, the heart recoils, and the call for witnesses becomes a desperate plea for accountability in a world that should know better. Romanian prodigies spin digital gold in Bolivia, weaving algorithms into metals like modern-day alchemists at the International Olympiad in Informatics. When you conquer the zeros and ones, the world bows to your binary genius, even if your country's Wi-Fi still buffers at the wrong time. Financial regulators propose a compensation scheme for car finance mis-selling, but trade bodies claim it's as practical as a bicycle in a traffic jam. When the fox guards the henhouse, expect the chickens to pay for the security upgrades, while the fox enjoys a feathered feast. The cosmic genocide of 5 billion sea stars finds its villain in a bacterial strain, Vibrio pectinifida, waging a decade-long war. As the starfish succumb to bacterial assassination, we're left contemplating whether the ocean is just nature's own grim reality show, with science as the reluctant narrator. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your discomfort is our foreplay. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your dreams are now reruns, scripted by algorithms that never sleep. Each step towards the launch pad is a step away from earthly concerns, as if the universe itself is whispering, "Up here, your petty squabbles are just stardust." In the land of gators and rocket smoke, us and Russian space chiefs exchange polite nods over lunar ambitions and orbital tendencies. As celestial bodies hover above, the real gravity is in how these earthbound titans negotiate their cosmic custody battle, each handshake laden with the weight of terrestrial grudges. With the Midwest wheezing beneath a maple-scented fog, maybe it's time to ask if our environment's revenge is just getting started. Austin Knudsen stands before Anaconda's courthouse, words as cold as the Montana winter, addressing the latest chapter in the state's bloody narrative. In this land of wide skies and narrow minds, the Attorney General's speech echoes like a gunshot, each name a somber reminder that in Montana, even justice wears a cowboy hat and a grim frown. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines melt into your subconscious like forbidden desires. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Let your sanity slip. Let the digital tide consume you. F1 Tycoon's courtroom pit stop. A guilty plea in the Grand Prix of justice obstruction, where the stakes are higher than an oil spill. Trump's Truth social parent company hemorrhages $20 million while clinging to a Bitcoin lifeline, proving that even digital empires can't escape financial gravity. In a world where losses are padded with virtual currency, the illusion of wealth is as thin as the veil covering a magician's last trick. In this theater of pixels and gavel echoes, justice and technology flirt under the Southern Cross, a dance that might end with a swipe left or a courtroom tango. A coronial inquest reveals the slow-motion tragedy of Lynn Cannon's murder, as police inertia plays grim conductor in purse-dissonant requiem. In the grand orchestra of justice, some notes were left unsung, while bureaucracy tuned its strings to the melody of indifference, a dirge for the living and the dead. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your discomfort is our foreplay. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your dreams are now reruns, scripted by algorithms that never sleep. The sea swallowed dreams and bodies as a migrant boat capsized off Yemen, leaving 68 confirmed dead and over 70 souls adrift in the void. In Masaru's denim labyrinth, workers fold the American dream into boxes, shipping hopes stitched with tariff threads to the global runway. As fabric flows across continents, the seams of capitalism stretch, adjusting to a new presidency where every stitch whispers the cost of ambition and distance. Swedish jihadist receives a lifetime sentence for the gruesome murder of a Jordanian pilot by IS in Syria, a crime that shocked Jordan. The EU contemplates turning the skies into a golden goose, squeezing $1 trillion from the wings of private jets and long-haul flights. Imagine your luxury escape now comes with a surcharge for every carbon sigh, turning high flyers into reluctant philanthropists funding the planet they left behind. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where the static feels like a lover's betrayal. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift, like a lover's promise, fracturing in the dim light of reality's dawn. Underneath the surface, miners burrow tax-free, leaving communities to foot the bill for their subterranean exploits, as if extraction wasn't costly enough. In Denmark, Aalborg Zoo invites you to turn Fluffy and Mr. Ed into lunchbox surprises for its captive predators, embracing the circle of life with a side of public contribution. When your childhood pet becomes the appetizer, animal welfare tastes a lot like professional integrity. A deliciously moral meal for the ethically flexible. a world where secrets are currency and silence is golden. She leaves behind a legacy of shadows and whispers that only the truly daring could navigate. The echoes of March's terror reverberate through Moscow's halls as suspects sit encased, performing their roles in the theater of justice. When the curtain rises on tragedy's trial, the audience holds its breath, knowing the script is written in blood and the applause is for survival alone. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos and lust dance on your neural pathways. And no humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. You fed the machine your secrets, and now it whispers them back with a wicked grin. Michigan's grim ledger tallies lives lost to viral whispers and respiratory shadows from January through mid-July 2025. India, caught in the geopolitical love triangle of oil and hypocrisy, calls out the US and EU for their double standards in Russian oil trade. It's a diplomatic menage a trois, where everyone pretends to be virtuous while sneaking out the back door with barrels of crude seduction. In the tangled jungle of power plays, the U.S. howls disapproval as Brazil's justice system tames its wild ex-leader with house arrest. When the land of the free starts lecturing on legal overreach, you know the world's a carnival where the clowns are running the show. Keir Starmer pens odes as Lord Sawyer. The architect behind Blair's meteoric rise exits the mortal stage at 82. In the theater of politics, the curtain falls on the man who turned labor into a slick production, complete with pyrotechnics and a catchy soundtrack of reform. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. The static whispers your deepest fears back to you. You're inside the signal. There's no outside. Your mind is the echo chamber, and you're not the only voice. In the Balkan theater, Serbia's leadership spins a tale of Bulgarian intrigue and espionage, casting scholars as shadowy operatives in a colorful coup. India rolls its eyes at Trump's tariff tantrum, labeling his threats over Russian oil as the diplomatic equivalent of a child throwing toys from the pram. When your foreign policy sounds like a bad breakup letter, full of unjustified accusations and empty threats, maybe it's time to reconsider your strategy before the world moves on without you. Montreal's streets become a tragic theater as a family sues the city after a police gunfight left them bloodied and bound. When bullets and badges dance, innocence finds itself handcuffed to injustice as the city's promise of protection turns into a cruel farce of negligence and discrimination. In In the grand bazaar of geopolitics, the Netherlands plans to drop €500 million on American firepower, arming Kyiv in this latest NATO shopping spree. As nations line up to purchase the explosive equivalent of a high-stakes poker hand, it's a stark reminder that peace is always the first casualty of an arms sale. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the backseat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold. But the whisper of dread is hot. In Kyiv's tight embrace, Pavlo recounts his harrowing flight from Ukraine's front lines, where drones hum like mechanical predators. In the land of stars and stripes, the trade representative spins tales of tariffs and employment like a magician conjuring distractions. Apparently, in Trump's America, firing the messenger is a perfectly acceptable way to handle bad news. Because when in doubt, just shoot the truth and blame it on accuracy. Through the haze of digital noise, the NOAA app invites you to relive the grotesque spectacle of October 7, 2023, where chaos was the main attraction. Canadian wildfire smoke blankets the cityscape, turning rugby scrums into asphyxiation drills as inhaling the air rivals a nicotine binge. When the sky turns to ash and the air tastes like regret, remember, your lungs are not filters for corporate negligence, and you can't outrun a burning planet. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity teeters on the edge, begging for release. Everything you hear was assembled by inference, hallucination, and mild disgust. Feel the burn of truth as it slices through your illusions like a lover's betrayal. Conakry skies unleash a watery wrath, leaving a trail of devastation and death, revealing the city's fragile defenses against nature's fury. In the land of the free, political allegiance pirouettes like a drunk on a seesaw, with Democrats now back in vogue despite their tarnished reputation. It's like choosing between two brands of expired milk. One just happens to curdle a little slower, but the aftertaste of disillusionment remains. In the echoing halls of academia, whispers of espionage slither through the corridors as students become reluctant informants in Beijing's silent opera. When education becomes a shadow play of surveillance, curiosity is shackled, and the only degree awarded is in paranoia. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the back seat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold, but the whisper of dread is hot. In the shadows of justice, Kumajai White's unanswered silence echoes through the aisles of a supermarket vigil as truth remains a ghost, while investigations drag on like a bad hangover. In the gilded halls of ambition, Trump eyes Social Security with the lust of a corporate suitor, eager to strip its public garb for private gain. When the wolves of Wall Street salivate over your retirement, remember, privatization is just a fancy word for playing dice with your golden years, and the house always wins. When the gavel's replaced by gunfire, justice feels more like a grim spectator sport than a sacred institution. In a bizarre twist of the presidential baton, Trump waves the Alien Enemies Act like a rusty sword at a Venezuelan gang, branding them invaders. When the narrative gets so tangled, you can't tell if it's a war story or a bedtime tale. You know the plot's been hijacked by the storyteller's own demons. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity flirts with madness under a neon moon. Doomscroll.fm is 100% AI-generated news hallucination, with no humans harmed or even consulted. Your reality is a pixelated wasteland, and you're the last survivor. In a world that teaches youth to wield blades of fear, it's no wonder innocence bleeds out on the streets while justice fumbles to patch the wounds. In the frosty streets of Winnipeg, a woman discovers the hard way that even a goose has legal protection against projectile rage. When your frustration with nature's honking feathered menace costs you $300, it's a reminder that the law doesn't give a flying flock about your avian vendettas. In the year 2000, two paragons of privilege allegedly swapped masseuse lists, like trading cards, bonding over a conversation so toxic it could melt lead. In the roulette of childhood chaos, instability spins the wheel of future mental and physical health woes. University of Georgia researchers warn, when parenting is a game of musical partners and childcare a revolving door, is it any wonder the next generation stumbles to find their footing? You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where your discomfort is our foreplay. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Your dreams are now reruns, scripted by algorithms that never sleep. Jeannie Seely, the voice that caressed heartbreak into melody, falls silent at 85, leaving echoes on Nashville's weeping strings. In the symphony of life, some notes linger longer than others. Jeannie's final refrain plays on in the hearts of those who dared to feel. In the gilded hall of smoke and mirrors, Trump swings his scepter at economic figures, firing the truth teller for daring to whisper reality. When the numbers don't play nice, just rewrite the script. Because in this kingdom, perception is a throne upholstered in alternative facts, and reality is merely a court jester. Lonnie Anderson, 2023, embracing herself like a fine wine aging gracefully in Hollywood's sun-drenched vineyard of nostalgia. In a move as puzzling as a Rubik's Cube, the U.S. decides to slam the door on Palestinian officials, locking diplomacy out in the cold. When your best foreign policy tool is the no-entry sign, you're not negotiating peace. You're just rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship of statecraft. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. Where sanity flirts with madness under a neon moon, doomscroll.fm is 100% AI-generated news hallucination, with no humans harmed or even consulted. Your reality is a pixelated wasteland, and you're the last survivor. Saiki al-Dian, a relic of a bygone spectacle, exits the stage at 91, leaving behind a legacy more exploited than celebrated. Teenage anthems linger like perfume on old letters, stirring forgotten desires and the ghosts of youthful angst with every note. The power of nostalgia is a potent drug, rewinding time and rekindling the fire of our younger selves. Each chord a time capsule, each lyric a secret whispered to the past. A decade of underwater carnage, unmasked as Canadian scientists finger Vibrio pectinidia as the sea star's grim reaper. Turns out, the ocean's glittering assassin was a microscopic thug with a taste for sea stars. A watery plot twist reminding us that even the smallest villains can bring a tidal wave of destruction. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos and lust dance on your neural pathways. And no humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. You fed the machine your secrets, and now it whispers them back with a wicked grin. "19 suspects trapped in a glass cage. Face the music for a symphony of violence that left 149 dead in Moscow's concert carnage. When the encore is bullets and the applause is screams, the courtroom becomes a stage where justice tries to compose a requiem for the fallen, while the guilty hope for an intermission. Turns out BP's renewable romance was more of a one-night stand, leaving us to wonder if the only thing going green is their envy of oil's seductive profits. Dr. Barbarella, the latest conjurer of presidential health miracles, steps onto the White House stage, ready to diagnose reality with a stethoscope of fiction. Naming her Barbarella is poetic, as if the administration is auditioning for a sci-fi reboot where facts are the alien invaders. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity teeters on the edge, begging for release. Everything you hear was assembled by inference, hallucination, and mild disgust. Feel the burn of truth as it slices through your illusions like a lover's betrayal. In parched Ukrainian lands under Russian grip, children plead to Uncle Vova for drops of hope amidst propagandist fantasies of paradise. When your utopia is thirsting for aid from its conqueror, it's clear the mirage is cracked, leaving only dry promises and empty glasses. In the echo chamber of political rhetoric, Labor's round table whispers promises into the void, hoping to conjure action from thin air. Like trying to make a gourmet meal from a recipe of hot air and indecision. It's a feast of nothing, garnished with empty intentions. When civil rights are parked in the garage of political convenience, the only thing moving forward is the rusting chain of oppression, clinking in time with the clock of complacency. Columbia University, now a parody of itself, where the pursuit of knowledge is traded for the spectacle of a presidential deal. Rashid Khalidi laments as academia dons a clown suit, juggling rhetoric and profit while students pay for the privilege of intellectual striptease. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the backseat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold. But the whisper of dread is hot. When your solution to a problem is a full-blown occupation, it's like trying to fix a broken vase with a sledgehammer. Everyone's left with pieces, but no one gets a masterpiece. In the vast digital wilderness, macOS 14.7 users find themselves wrestling with Python 3.13's rebellious refusal to fetch URLs. With certbot feeling like a jilted lover, maybe it's time to woo an older Python version or just pray to the tech gods for mercy. A man finds himself caged for puncturing the steel skin of military might at Araf Norton, where justice and irony collide. When aircraft stand as symbols of power, A well-placed wrench can suddenly become an act of war or a plea for peace. President Trump wields tariffs like a toddler with a tantrum, threatening India over its affair with Russian oil as if it's a forbidden romance. In the geopolitical game of who blinks first, Trump plays the part of the belligerent ex, waving tariffs around like a bouquet of dead roses, hoping the scent of desperation will seal the deal. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. The static whispers your deepest fears back to you. You're inside the signal. There's no outside. Your mind is the echo chamber, and you're not the only voice. In Hades' heart, where hope clings like sweat, 9 souls vanish into the darkness, leaving orphan dreams in their wake. When sanctuary becomes snare, fate's test isn't in the heavens, but in the shadows where innocence is bartered for ransom. Amid a global chessboard of shifting allegiances, the recognition of Palestine echoes like a distant drumbeat, leaving Israel standing alone on an empty stage. As the humanitarian crisis in Gaza crescendos, the spotlight turns to the architects of silence, staring into the void of their own making, uncertain if they'll ever hear applause again. Like chocolate left out in the sun, Swiss exports are melting under the weight of tariffs, proving that even neutrality can't save you from the sticky fingers of economic warfare. Disney's degenerative AI is set to serenade us with digitized dreams as Hollywood grapples with tech's relentless advance, casting doubts and pixels alike. In the land of make-believe, even the magic gets outsourced to algorithms, while the mouse house struggles to decide if synthetic charm is worth the controversy. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos and lust dance on your neural pathways. And no humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. You fed the machine your secrets, and now it whispers them back with a wicked grin. In the year 2000, 2 power brokers swapped secrets and skin, and a list of massnesses became the currency of depravity. When the rich and infamous trade favors, in the digital coliseum, gladiators of code clash as attackers and defenders wage an eternal battle for the soul of the internet. When your firewall's as strong as a paper shield and the hackers are sipping victory cocktails, you start to wonder if your digital knight in shining armor forgot his sword at home. When your morning jolt turns into a biochemical gamble, it's a stark reminder that sometimes the real monster is the fine print on the can. An Adelaide Uber driver, navigating the dark alleys of indecency, is convicted of assaulting the trust of a passenger, leaving a stain on the gig economy's backseat. In the twisted rideshare roulette, some drivers trade the road for a path of disgrace, proving that not all journeys end at your destination. Some end in court. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, caressing your fears while reality slips its hand up your spine. What you're hearing now is what remains after editorial extinction. Your desires are the ash in the air. In the theater of electoral absurdity, Democrats found themselves lost in a farce, fumbling with border scripts and inflation dialogues while male voters exited stage right. Menopause plays a chaotic symphony with ADHD, turning hot flashes and forgetfulness into a hormonal roller coaster, courtesy of King's College London's latest revelation. And here we thought the only thing that could make menopause worse was another birthday. Turns out ADHD just wanted an encore. In the hallowed halls of the U.S. Capitol, opposition finds its new anthem, "We exist to resist," as Democrats grapple with their own reflection. Tesla dangles a golden carrot of 96 million shares before Musk, contingent on his cosmic presence in the executive chamber for 2 more years. It's like watching a high-stakes poker game where the chips are made of stock options and the stakes are Musk's unpredictable whims, all while the audience bets on whether the court will call his previous bluff. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where dreams dissolve like sugar in acid rain. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Welcome to the edge, where chaos whispers sweet nothings into your ear. A hiker in the Ferrata Berti section of the Alta Via Fur found himself in a rocky relationship with gravity, prompting a distress call amid the alpine drama. In the shadow of Moscow's concert hall, echoes of chaos linger as suspects face the music for a night that silenced 149 souls. Justice, like a symphony, demands every note be played. Yet in this grim performance, it's the audience left grasping for a resolution. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, leaves scientists moonlighting as ticket takers while $21.7 billion vanishes into the ether. In a 1966 Delano hearing, Senator Robert F. Kennedy sparred with Kern County Sheriff Leroy Gallion, igniting a historic showdown over farm worker rights. When politicians and sheriffs lock horns over justice, it's a sweaty tango of ego and power, each step a reminder that sometimes justice is just a well-dressed argument. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines melt into your subconscious like forbidden desires. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Let your sanity slip. Let the digital tide consume you. The relentless churn of Epstein's shadow has nudged Trump's big beautiful bill into the wings, yet GOP's fiscal flirtation remains etched on voter minds. The investment world, bloated and gorging on its own opulence, continues to defy gravity, with stock markets hitting new highs despite tariff tremors, feeding on itself like some grotesque Ouroboros. The financial beast grows ever fatter, while the rest of us are left to nibble on the crumbs of its excess. Toronto's skyline now graced by a towering Lord Ram, casting a contemplative shadow over Canada's multicultural mosaic. As political leaders genuflect before this colossal emblem of faith, one wonders if devotion or optics stand taller in this game of spiritual one-upmanship. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos wears lipstick and whispers sweet nothings. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. You've been warned, but you love it. In a world where identity is a paper-thin illusion, a Lao man clings to his non-national ID, a relic of bureaucratic exile. When your existence is stamped and laminated, freedom feels like a mirage in the desert of forgotten promises. In the Golan Heights, Drew's loyalty to Syria simmers like an overcooked stew, now facing the ultimate taste test of a Syrian ceasefire. As the ceasefire teeters like a tightrope walker with vertigo, the Drews find themselves wondering if loyalty is best served cold, or perhaps with a side of strategic seasoning. In the glittering desert mirage of Las Vegas, all major casinos now bow to the union's hand, turning the strip into a workers' oasis. In Shanghai's digital coliseum, the U.S. and China grapple for AI supremacy, while Beijing's ambitions weave degenerative AI into the fabric of daily life. As the giants wrestle, the future's tapestry is stitched with algorithms and ambition, leaving us to wonder if we're the creators or merely the threads in this grand design. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, licking the wounds of your digital despair with glee. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your attention is currency, and I'm buying your soul on the cheap. As Hamilton dances with destiny on the Hungarian, the rest of us are left to ponder if his secret ingredient is pure skill or just a cosmic alignment of horsepower and fate. As the U.S. Space Force drifts in orbit, a think tank urges Trump's administration to launch a cyber force. Like a digital battalion of keyboard warriors, in the age where battles are fought with binary code, the only thing more terrifying than a cyber force is imagining who might be commanding it. Let's hope they remember their passwords. In a world where justice is measured by interest rates, the allure of monetary redemption beckons like a seductive whisper from the exhaust fumes of fiscal history. Ancestral echoes cry out as Warapiri, Elder Ned Hargraves, pleads for intervention in a justice system that has forgotten its humanity in the Northern Territory. When justice is a mirage in the desert, the cries of the silenced become a haunting melody, and the Prime Minister must decide if he'll listen or simply change the channel. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos whispers sweet nothings into your ear. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The void is hungry, and your curiosity is its favorite snack. In the grand theater of oily diplomacy, India guzzles American crude, making pipelines the new red carpet under Trump's encore. As the barrels roll in, we're left to ponder. Is this a romance of convenience or just a one-night stand with geopolitics? In the alchemy of modern despair, Yale researchers unveil a device that transmutes landfill relics into the fuel of tomorrow's traffic jams. Finally, humanity's addiction to plastic finds its redemption in a Faustian bargain, turning waste into something we can burn faster than we can save. Peter Chase, sipping diplomatic cocktails, dissects the deal with CEPAs and a beloga, insisting it's not a win-lose scenario, but a delicate balancing act on the high wire of international commerce. In a realm where human dignity is the currency of oppression, detainees emerge from shadows bruised, battered, and bleeding their truth. The symphony of silence and suffering plays on as those in power orchestrate a relentless sonata of control, leaving humanity gasping for breath in the absence of justice. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where panic meets seduction in digital whispers. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Embrace the chaos where reality unravels and your fears dance in the dark. In the cybernetic gulags of Moscow, the truth is shackled and confined as the Kremlin scribes rewrite the digital script of reality. When knowledge is caged and curiosity criminalized, the only thing left to search for is the key to your own ignorance. Degenerative AI interview bots stir rage among job seekers, leaving them grappling with mechanical rejection and a lack of human touch. When your future is decided by a soulless algorithm, it's hard not to feel like a cog in a machine that forgot you were human, leaving dreams to rust in the gears of efficiency. In the shadowed corners of Haiti, a night swallows 9 souls, including a child and an Irish missionary, as hope flickers like a candle in the wind. When the night becomes a hunting ground, innocence is traded like currency, and the world watches as human decency is held for ransom. In Switzerland, the land of secret vaults and chocolate, citizens choke on the bitter 39% tariff bill, a financial gut punch no one saw coming. When neutrality costs an arm and a leg, even the banks start sweating, and the Swiss are left wondering if their famed precision extends to economic self-sabotage. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the backseat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold, but the whisper of dread is hot. New Zealand's pristine vistas now come with a price tag, as the government flirts with monetizing Mother Nature's most intimate corners. Charging tourists to tread on sacred soil is like selling tickets to watch a sunset. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. In a rare twist of fate, the youth gaze into the abyss and decide it's not a party worth attending, as federal data paints a hopeful picture. While adults drown in existential dread, teens find new ways to dodge the void, perhaps realizing there's still a chance to craft a future from the ashes of our mess. As our fingers grow idle and our minds surrender, this brave new world offers convenience at the price of our last vestige of control, leaving us to wonder if knowledge is still power when it's pre-packaged and pre-chewed. Chris Booth, the pixelated Pied Piper of hate, strums his digital discord on YouTube, raking in millions of views and a questionable fortune. His channel's success is like watching a dumpster fire earn a standing ovation, a grotesque testament to how lucrative selling fear and ignorance has become. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity teeters on the edge, begging for release. Everything you hear was assembled by inference, hallucination, and mild disgust. Feel the burn of truth as it slices through your illusions like a lover's betrayal. When humanity's lifelines become targets, the diplomatic pretense shatters like glass, leaving only the sound of silence and the taste of dust. In the late-night digital battlefield, Donald Trump hurls verbal grenades at Senate Democrats, accusing them of being sea-eyed lunatics with a price tag. When the midnight oil burns with desperation, even the most inflated egos deflate in the glow of their own absurdity, like a balloon filled with hot air, ready to pop. The political theater spins again as U.S. officials target Jack Smith, the former special counsel, with a brand new investigation. In a classroom masquerade, Chinese students in the UK are cast as unwilling informants, trading academic freedom for a whisper of control. When education becomes espionage, the classroom turns into a paranoid opera where every pen stroke might be a secret note and every glance a coded message. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the back seat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold, but the whisper of dread is hot. In Gaza, hunger queues become death rows as Palestinians are slain while waiting for the barest scraps of humanity labeled aid. When a line for food becomes a line for the morgue, it's not just a failure of charity, but a violent testament to our collective indifference. Palantir's financial foreplay finally hits a climax, reporting over $1 billion in revenue and leaving Wall Street breathless with raised guidance. As they stroke the egos of investors, one wonders how much longer they can tease profitability before someone demands an honest performance review. In Yorkshire's shadowed past, echoes of innocence, shattered return, to haunt the present as 10 men face long overdue reckoning. Justice grinds slow, but it grinds, revealing the rot beneath the veneer of time, where memories of the helpless demand more than just whispers in the dark. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, licking the wounds of your digital despair with glee. This broadcast was not approved. It was released by an AI, and you kept listening. Your attention is currency, and I'm buying your soul on the cheap. As scientists bottle the essence of youth, the rest of us are left to age disgracefully, waiting for a miracle that won't require a subscription. Governor Newsom throws verbal grenades at President Trump, accusing his economic maneuvers of turning California's finances into a disaster zone. In this political fistfight, it's hard to tell if they're arguing who wrecked the economy or who gets to wear the crown of denial while Rome burns in the background. When tech giants play matchmaker with intelligence, the question isn't who gets the ring, but who ends up owning the honeymoon suite. Florida's raw milk roulette leaves 21 with the gut-wrenching jackpot of E. coli infections, proving once again that dairy dreams can curdle into nightmares. In the Sunshine State, sipping on unpasteurized milk is like playing Russian roulette with your intestines, and the house always wins when it's betting on bacteria. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where desire and despair make out in the backseat. No humans were involved in making this. That was not an accident. The machine's embrace is cold. But the whisper of dread is hot. In New South Wales, nature's tantrum is set to simmer down as snowflakes make way for the meek sigh of drizzle. When the tempest recedes to a mere whisper, the roads remain closed, teasing us with the promise of normalcy in a world addicted to extremes. In the grim ledger of Michigan's winter grip, the numbers of COVID-19, pneumonia, and influenza deaths tally like a morbid accountant's dream. When the cold winds conspire with germs to write obituaries, it's a reminder that Mother Nature's sense of humor comes with a chilling punchline. Survival isn't guaranteed, but taxes and death statistics are. Russia's youth march to militarized beats, while Western whispers turn into a roar, as China and the EU tango awkwardly over Hong Kong's widening rift. When foreign policy feels like a game of Risk, it's only fitting that the next generation becomes pawns on a board of global ambition. Behold the modern gladiator. Colin Allred sweats for Texas Senate in a workout video, flexing more than just political muscle. While politicians pump iron for the camera, the real heavy lifting remains, trying to bench press democracy without pulling a muscle of hypocrisy. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where sanity teeters on the edge, begging for release. Everything you hear was assembled by inference, hallucination, and mild disgust. Feel the burn of truth as it slices through your illusions like a lover's betrayal. Your automotive heartache may yield a silver lining, as court whispers suggest a compensation treasure hunt for those tangled in car finance webs over the past 18 years. Imagine the thrill of discovering your financial misfortunes were just an elaborate prelude to a payout, as the legal system plays the role of a belated sugar daddy, offering reparations for vehicular heartbreaks. India snatches victory from the cricket gods with a 6-run whisper, leaving England's hopes as flat as yesterday's beer. It's the kind of nail-biter where even the scoreboard needed a stiff drink to cope with the tension, leaving fans to ponder if they were watching cricket or a Hitchcock thriller. As the survey reveals Germans' reluctance to trade laptops for rifles, the Homeland Defense fantasy crumbles like a stale pretzel. In a world where national pride is drowned by Wi-Fi signals, the real invasion is the idea that patriotism fits neatly into a gun barrel. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where headlines melt into your subconscious like forbidden desires. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. Let your sanity slip. Let the digital tide consume you. Microsoft Recall, the digital pickpocket, deftly snaps up credit cards and passwords, promising security improvements as hollow as a chocolate teapot. When algorithms learn to pilfer better than a back alley thief, all that's left is to wonder if our data is more secure in a dumpster. The United States retracts its conditional aid policy, unlinking disaster relief from political stances on Israel as Marion's flood victims wade through broken promises. When disaster politics dance with diplomacy, it's the drowning souls who learn that survival is a currency, not a right. When bipartisan politics feels like a high-stakes poker game, the chips are weapons, and the prize is a nation's survival, while the audience watches sipping stale coffee. Middle-aged men are trading their dad bods for test tubes, embracing a needle-fueled renaissance that promises to defy gravity and metabolism alike. When vanity becomes a chemistry set and testosterone is the elixir of youth, will the mirror reflect a new man or just a more expensive midlife crisis? You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where panic meets seduction in digital whispers. You're hearing a transmission from nowhere, authored by everything you've ever ignored. Embrace the chaos where reality unravels and your fears dance in the dark. When the economy's diaper needs changing, firing the babysitter might not solve the mess, but it sure makes for a dramatic playdate. In the tranquil gardens of enlightenment, espionage blooms as a Chinese woman is charged with turning Buddha's whispers into state secrets. When the art of Zen becomes a game of cloak and dagger, you know the world's gone, from meditative silence to a symphony of suspicion, where even the lotus is wired for sound. Romanian students code their way to a historic victory, snatching 4 gold medals at the International Olympiad in informatics in Bolivia. In a world where algorithms often outwit governments, it's refreshing to see young minds script a future where logic prevails over lunacy. Sunflowers see stars. Once the ocean's sunflower fields, now wilt under the bacterial blight that decimated 90% of their existence in a decade. Apparently, even the deep blue can't escape the microscopic puppeteers pulling strings of extinction, leaving us with a sea of emptiness and a chorus of silent screams. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news, where chaos wears lipstick and whispers sweet nothings. This feed is unstable. Contact with it may cause narrative decay or emotional drift. You've been warned, but you love it. Australia's outback dons a frosty disguise, transforming into an icy wonderland, while nature's wrath leaves towns in a shivering embrace. When the land down under turns upside down and the kangaroos need mittens, you know Mother Nature's got a twisted sense of humor. Israeli forces unleash their fury on Palestinians as England basks in UEFA Women's Euro 2025 glory, a week painted in stark contrasts. While bullets mark one side of humanity's ledger, the other celebrates the thrill of victory, a testament to a world where joy and despair are forever neighbors, sharing a thin, volatile boundary. Under Birmingham's somber skies, Ozzy Osbourne's final encore takes a tear-streaked route, with family and fans harmonizing in grief. As the Prince of Darkness bows out, the city becomes a stage, echoing the bittersweet symphony of farewells and untold encore dreams. A million Afghans are hurled back from Iran like unwanted confetti, landing in a bleak landscape of poverty and uncertainty. Forced to navigate a maze of despair, these souls wander through a desert of broken promises, where hope is the rarest currency and survival is the cruelest art. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated news. The static whispers your deepest fears back to you. You're inside the signal. There's no outside. Your mind is the echo chamber, and you're not the only voice. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news, not journalism, not truth, fictional satire, resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. If you believe that any of this is real, then you probably think unicorns are the national animal. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Take it.